It started on one of those days when the rain doesn't just fall, it lingers, like the sky is trying to say something it can't put into words. Ethan stood outside a small cafe in downtown Portland, clutching a bouquet of slightly wilted daisies. He'd been rehearsing his words all morning, his heart pounding with hope and fear. He wasn't the kind of guy who confessed feelings easily. But today, he was ready. When Mia, his co-worker, his quiet crush for months, walked out of the cafe, he stepped forward. "Hey, Mia," he said, forcing a smile. "Can we talk for a minute?" She looked surprised, then glanced at the flowers in his hand. A soft sigh escaped her lips. "Oh, Ethan," she began gently, "you're sweet, but, no. I'm sorry." The word no echoed in his head louder than the rain hitting the sidewalk. He nodded quickly, hiding the sting with a nervous laugh. "Yeah, of course. Totally fine. I just thought." But he didn't finish. She was already walking away, her friend beside her. He turned, ready to toss the flowers in the nearest trash bin, when he heard a voice, soft but confident. "Maybe you were meant to meet me instead." He froze. It was Mia's friend, the one who'd stood quietly beside her, umbrella tilted just enough to keep both of them dry. Her eyes were kind, curious, and slightly amused. Ethan blinked. "What?" She smiled. "You looked like you needed someone to talk to." "I'm Avery." Something about her tone, calm, grounded, made him pause. Not pity, not teasing. Just sincerity. He hesitated, then shrugged. "I guess, yeah. Maybe I do need someone to talk to." Avery nodded toward the cafe. "Then let's start with coffee." "My treat." Inside, the air smelled of cinnamon and espresso. Ethan sat across from Avery, still half stunned by how quickly things had shifted. They talked, first awkwardly, then easily. About music, bad dates, books they never finished reading, and the quiet ache of wanting to feel seen. By the time the rain stopped, he'd forgotten all about the daisies sitting on the counter beside them. Over the next few weeks, Avery and Ethan started crossing paths, sometimes intentionally, sometimes by coincidence. She'd invite him to her art gallery openings, he'd bring her coffee during her long workdays. She had this rare ability to notice small things, when someone was struggling, when silence wasn't empty but heavy. She told him she used to volunteer at a shelter, that she believed every act of kindness, no matter how small, created ripples somewhere unseen. One evening, as they sat watching the sunset by the river, Ethan admitted, "You know, if Mia hadn't said no." Avery interrupted gently, smiling. "Then maybe you wouldn't have found what you actually needed." He looked at her, really looked. The way her hair caught the light, the way her smile didn't try too hard. It was honest. Real. Months passed. They never rushed things. But there was something beautifully simple about how it all unfolded. Then one day, Avery got a call. Her younger brother had been in a car accident out of state. She had no one to drive her there. Ethan didn't even hesitate. He dropped everything, drove her 6 hours through the night, just to make sure she wasn't alone. At the hospital, when the doctors said her brother would be okay, Avery broke down. And Ethan, quiet, steady Ethan, was there, holding her hand. She looked up at him through tears and whispered, "You really were meant to meet me instead." That night, as they sat outside the hospital, exhausted but grateful, Ethan finally understood. Sometimes, life doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you need. Mia's no had been a closed door, but it led him straight to someone who didn't just like him, but understood him. Someone who believed in kindness not as an act, but as a way of living. Months later, Avery's brother recovered. Ethan and Avery opened a small art cafe together, a space where local artists could display their work for free, and where anyone could come in, no matter how much money they had, and get a cup of coffee on the house. They called it the Second Chance Cafe. On the wall near the entrance, Avery hung a small handwritten quote. Sometimes, rejection isn't the end. It's just the universe rerouting you to the right heart. Every time Ethan passed it, he smiled. Because now, when people asked how they met, he'd just laugh and say. She said no, but her friend whispered, maybe you were meant to meet me instead. And she was right. Moral. Sometimes life's detours are its greatest blessings. What feels like rejection today may simply be redirection toward something, and someone, meant just for you.